The Eco Corridors in Southern Caucasus project was launched in 2015 with financial assistance provided by the KfW Bank of the German government. It is being implemented by the WWF in the Caucasus and the Armenian Representative Office in Armenia. The aim of the project is to set up a secure migration corridor for animals, as well as to cooperate with local communities to contribute to community development while securing the conservation of target species. The area connecting the Khosrow Forest State Reserve in the north and the protected area in the south has been selected as the location for the Eco Corridor in Armenia. This area was initially selected in order to first assess the habitat of the 4 target species: the Caucasian leopard, brown bear, Armenian mouflon, and Bezoar goat. After the assessment, we carried out certain activities with the local communities. As a result, we were able to identify the communities with which we have signed agreements for environmental protection and launch project activities.
The methodology of the project was designed so that we could achieve the objective of securing nature conservation with improving the livelihood of local people at the same time. In order to do this, we analyzed the landscape with the modern scientific methods using satellite data and GIS on one hand, and then on the other hand we initiated the financial participatory approach process, where we engaged with the local people, with the local communities through the process of contests and awards to get their idea, their knowledge and their understanding of the situation. This way we could find the most important areas for where the conservation agreements could be signed.
The success of the project is completely due to community involvement. These kinds of projects are bound to fail without community participation. Biodiversity conservation simply requires people's active participation during the entirety of the project. The next important factor for success is social and economic development. If we lack socio-economic development, the conservation activities cannot be effectively implemented. This is why the project started in 2015 with community involvement initiatives. Tenders were announced in 26 communities, in which different community groups took part. These groups got together and discussed the vision for the development of the village and proposed projects to that end. These projects had the potential to tackle issues regarding both the conservation of biodiversity and socio-economic development. Thus, indifferent and dejected citizens have become dynamic thinkers who are involved in interesting discussions and starting to consider the future of the village from a different perspective. This became one of the most vital results of the participatory project. It was possible to implement a number of projects in many villages, thanks to small grants. For example, villagers were able to solve the problem of drinking water and road renovations. Entrepreneurs received small funding to develop their businesses, and several other similar small projects were implemented in a number of villages. Within the frames of the financial involvement project, we were able to identify the most relevant rural communities, which were ready to engage in the long-term process of biodiversity preservation. Agreements were signed with those villages, and concrete environmental protection activities were conducted. Among them, the most important ones are setting up an institute of caretakers in villages. These villagers have been provided with relevant outerwear, equipment and cars, and with whom training has been conducted. They are responsible for area observation, as well as for running ongoing monitoring activities, collecting important information on the existence and distribution of animals. Innovative solutions were also introduced, as caretakers use a mobile application that has been developed by local experts, enabling them to collect the required information on animals. This information would later be used by experts for conducting analysis. The areas provided by the villagers for biodiversity conservation remain to be of the highest priority, as the habitat of the preserved animals. The land still remains to be the property of the community or state under community management, as it has been in the past. The goal is different. The community still engages in economic activities in the same area, but conservation activities are being implemented. However, measures should be taken in order to avoid creating any obstacles for the spreading and breeding of wildlife. Using the funds provided by us, they were able to attain additional finances from state subsidy projects and other sources such as international development projects. Thanks to this kind of support, they were able to provide their communities with agricultural machinery or to install water pipes and build water points, as, for example, in the community of Zangagatun. Animal shelters and water points are of high environmental protection importance. They enable us to use pastures effectively. In addition, we provided legal assistance to the communities so they could regulate the borders of the hunting grounds and not allow hunting to occur in the same areas where biodiversity conservation is being implemented. The Eco Corridors project, currently implemented in Armenia, is of high importance from an environmental perspective. From an environmental protection perspective, since it can be considered one of the pilot projects, thanks to which our system of protected areas is heading towards network building. The Eco Corridor project is included in the strategy and activity project of protected areas and fully supported by the Ministry of Environment. Today I had the chance to get familiar with the project on site. I think it is a successful project, which is important not only from the perspective of environmental protection, aiming at nature, animals, and biodiversity conservation, but also from that of community involvement, since the engagement and support of people in this kind of project is of paramount importance. I saw communities where this kind of project is being launched, communities where these projects are successfully implemented, communities where the North-South corridor is located. The latter provides necessary conditions for the free movement and breeding of leopards and other animals. The most important thing is that people, Armenia as a whole, support this project, and I believe the assistance provided by the German government, the activities conducted by WWF, in short, the combined efforts, are a great example for similar projects.